Yeah.
with a knife. And in self-defense, I think I killed her. Yeah. Can you tell him to come immediately?
Okay, what type of knife was it?
There was all sorts of knives. In the frustration, I didn't know what I was doing. I cut her head off. I chopped her head off with a knife.
Jessica Camilleri was born on October 12, 1993, to parents Vince and Rita Camilleri and big sister Christy, growing up in Australia. By all accounts, Christy was a normal and typical child, but Jessica was not. She would be placed in intermediate classes in school because she had delays in reading, writing, math, and language arts. Because Jessica was years behind her age group, she would be bullied relentlessly, being teased, taunted, and harassed by her peers for being different. The constant bullying would flow into her reaction of rage, triggering her intermittent explosive disorder. Jessica was also diagnosed with autism, which impaired her judgment of other people's thoughts, feelings, and empathy. Because of her autism, Jessica would suffer with being able to complete everyday tasks that most of us take for granted, such as grocery shopping, catching transportation, home care, and employment. Typical for most people with autism spectrum disorder, Jessica would become fixated on things, which in Jessica's case included a fascination with horror movies. She would spend hours and hours a day for weeks, months, and even years looking at the same videos. Intermittent rage disorder is unlike normal anger. This is a mental disorder which usually starts around the age of 6 and gradually intensifies in adolescence and early adulthood. IRD is related to a lack of serotonin, the mood hormone in the brain. Jessica would explain that when she perceives a person looking at her strongly or disrespectfully, she would have a minor reaction, but if they touched her physically, she would lose all control. In school, Jessica would have repeated outbursts, attacking other students and teachers, resulting in suspensions. It was typically females that she would attack, but on one occasion, Jessica bit a male student, and furthermore, when the staff tried to get her off the student, Jessica refused to disengage her teeth. After leaving school, Jessica would be placed in supportive environments, but because of her outbursts, she would be asked to leave. Because Jessica was unable to cope in any of her environments, she was placed on a disability support pension. So from 2013 on, Jessica would be found at her family's home. Jessica had a condition known as neurasthenia, and as a result, she would take her favorite numbers and her favorite colors and lump them together. So what does that mean? For example, number 2 was yellow, number 5 was purple, number 3 was green. She would then make up phone numbers and dial them in hopes that she would get people, preferably men, to sit and talk to her. She would call the number of a Bangladeshi family who she did not know personally up to 100 times a day because she liked their number. In 2018, Jessica would begin calling the numbers of staff at a Victorian meat company in Daylesford and would go on to develop a crush on the boss, Matthew Layfield. After calling several of the male staff, Jessica would move on to Matthew Layfield's wife and sister-in-law, telling them, quote, "I'll cut your head off with a chainsaw and flush it down the toilet," end quote. It was at this point that Matthew would reach out to Jessica's mother, Rita, to let her know that things were getting out of hand. She would also be aggressive to another woman on the street. She was banned from a doctor's office after she became paranoid about a female patient in the waiting room and had to be restrained. Her mother, Rita, would then take her to the hospital where she became aggressive with a female nurse. She would then be admitted to the hospital's psychiatric unit for 9 days for a severe mood disorder and placed on meds for bipolar disorder and on antipsychotic meds in early 2018, but would go off her meds before the end of that year. Meds that also suppressed her IED disorder. Jessica's parents would separate when she was a teenager, and Vince Camilleri, her father, would say that his estranged wife Rita was unable to discipline Jessica. By the summer of 2019, Jessica had had a substantial amount of therapy, but the progress had been small because of her mental disorder, along with her intellectual disability, autism, and explosive rage disorder exasperating each other. July 20th, 2019 was quite a day. Jessica became very distressed when she thought that her mother was giving too much attention to another family member. She would also believe that her mother had humiliated her in front of a man who was simply walking past them in the car park. As the evening progressed, Jessica would ask her mother to call a doctor for her. Very shortly after the doctor arrived, she left, claiming she was in fear of her life. And I'm guessing with good reason, because as the doctor was leaving, Jessica was chasing her down the driveway. Luckily, the doctor was able to escape in her vehicle. After this, Jessica called a Red Rooster at 9:18 p.m., 9:20 p.m., and 9:21 p.m. wanting food. Finally, Rita snapped, telling Jessica, quote, "That's it. I'm calling 000 and having an ambulance come get you and put you back into care," end quote. This would end up being a fatal mistake on Rita's part. Jessica would stab her mother at least 100 times with as many as 11 different knives, not stopping until she was holding her mother's head in her hands. She would then take her mother's head, drop it on a neighbor's property, and call 000 with a very confused neighbor.
Hello, this is Alison from Police Emergency. We just received a call from this number.
Yes, I need you to get the ambulance and the police out here immediately.
To which address?
Please come. I need you. This is our immediate life or death situation.
Which suburb or town is that in?
St. Clair.
Okay,
St.
so
Clair.
St. Clair, and what's the nearest crossroad, please?
What's the nearest one? Listen, can you talk to the neighbour? I'm flustered. Can you just talk to him? Could you? Because my hand's bleeding. Yeah. Thank you. Can you talk to? Oh, my finger's broken. I can't.
It's all right.
Okay, talk to him.
Hello?
Hi.
Yeah.
What's happened?
I don't know. We was just at home, but she just come in screaming for help, and when suddenly I opened the door, she said, "Just help me," and call the police or ambulance. And she said to me, she had a fight with her mom, I think.
Okay.
My mum tried to stab me, and I killed her, I think.
So did she just say her mum tried to stab her?
I don't know because of the...
Yes.
Yeah.
With a knife. And in self-defense, I think I killed her. Yes. Can you tell him to come immediately?
Yeah. Can you please just come immediately, please?
Okay, so she believes that she may have killed her mother?
Yes.
Yeah. She said like this. Yeah.
Yes.
And where is this at? Is that where you are at the moment?
Sorry, who? Me?
Yeah. So where are you at the moment?
I'm in.
Oh, okay. But she's.
Yeah.
Is she with you at the moment?
Yes.
Yeah. She's in the front yard of my house.
Okay. All right. So how old's her mother?
How old is your mother?
My mum's dead, I think.
How old is she?
57.
57. So is she not conscious?
Nah.
I stabbed her because she tried to kill me.
Okay. And you didn't check if she was breathing?
No, we can't
Could you
go
come
there.
to the house? There's a kid in there. Could you come with me, please?
No, I can't go. Sorry about that. Nah.
Okay. There's a kid, a 4-year-old kid on the phone in the house.
And is her mother severely bleeding?
No, because we didn't go to her house because I'm outside of my house because I can't go there.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
Okay. So do you know what the lady's name is?
And my fingers are broken. My
Yeah.
fingers are broken.
Her mother was just his name. Her name.
Jessica Camilleri.
Is that your name? Is that the lady's name who called?
Yes. Can I talk to her? Lady, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Your name's Jessica?
My fingers are broken.
Okay.
Mum has had enough of me because I admit I've been a challenge, and this ongoing thing's been going for months. Anyway, she had enough of me. She grabbed me by the hair and dragged me from my room all the way to the kitchen, and she got a knife and she tried to stab me with it, and I grabbed the knife off her because I thought she was going to stab me, so I stabbed her back. And I was so heated up with anger, I just kept stabbing her, and I took off her head. Her head is, I ran to my neighbour, not this neighbour, my other neighbour before this one, who's on the other side. He was at work. I told him to call the ambulance and the police immediately. He's going to do so, but no one's at home because everyone in the family is at work now. Okay. So he wasn't much help. He said, all I can do is I'll call the police and the ambulance to my address, and I thought it was going to take a bit of time, so I ran to my other neighbour on the other side. Okay. And I had my mum's head in my hand. I know this sounds insane, but I was taking it for evidence to show the neighbour. In the struggle, in the frustration, I didn't know what I was doing. I cut her head off. I chopped her head off with a knife.
Okay. What type of knife was it?
There was all sorts of knives. There was about 7 knives I was stabbing her with. A few of the knives broke. When that knife broke, I got another one and did the same.
Where's the knives now?
They're all in the kitchen. There's blood everywhere. There's blood everywhere.
Yeah. And you're outside the house?
Yes. Yes, the ambulance and the police have rocked up. Do you want to stay on the phone?
No, that's okay. What's your phone number, Jessica?
Look, you're better off. This is my mum's phone number, but my mum's not here anymore, okay? She's gone.
Okay, what's your date of birth?
October 12, 1993. Over here.
All right, I'll let you go speak to the police.
Yeah, hang up, okay?
Okay, bye.
11:43 p.m. on July 20th, 2019, police arrive at the scene. They walk over to Jessica Camilleri, who's dressed in a blue dress with flowers on it, covered in blood from head to toe, and carrying a mobile phone and a bottle of water. On the recording, Jessica can be heard saying, "My mom's head is on the concrete over there. Can you bring someone back to life if they don't have a head? Can you bring her back to life? It was like from the neck and the back of my neck. Are you sure you won't be able to bring her back to life?" One officer tells her no. She continues, "Can I ask you, is my mom dead? You just can't bring her back to life? Did you find it? It's on the path. I won't get the death penalty or anything." She continues, "Can I ask you, did they find the head? Has she gone? You can just bring her back. There's nothing you could do? She's a goner? They can't restart her heart? 'Cause I know doctors can do miracles. They can resew her head." The police officer says, "That's a bit of a stretch." Jessica continues, "The nurses can't do a miracle and bring her back? I think her eyes and her tongue came out. I thought doctors can do miracle surgeries and put the head back on. No?" The court also heard on the recording Jessica Camilleri telling uniformed officers on the scene and the detectives that she acted in self-defense after her mother dragged her by the hair and dragged her from the bedroom. "In self-defense, I grabbed a knife. Listen, does this happen all the time? Will I be locked up for the rest of my life? I have a history of mental illness. Everyone in my family has had enough of me." In Jessica's official police interview the morning after the incident with her mother, Jessica describes ramming the knife into her mother, boom, 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 telling officers, "I wanted to give her a taste of her own medicine, but not to kill her, but it quickly got out of hand. A bit of her nose, or half of her nose, fell off in the struggle. I couldn't stop myself. The only time I could stop myself was when her head came off. When my mom's head came off, I didn't think to put it in a bag. I had my mom's phone and my phone in my left hand, and I was carrying my mom's head in the other hand." The court would then hear the 000 recording calls by both Jessica Camilleri and the neighbor whose house Jessica left her mother's head at.
She was a lovely person. She was a lovely lady, and I feel sorry for her because she was so nice.
Crown Prosecutor Tony McCarthy said in his opening statements that Jessica Camilleri had a lengthy history of assaulting people, and her mother Rita had become overly protective and defensive in her role as her caregiver. Jessica has harassed or threatened family members over the phone, including threats to cut off people's heads with a knife. Jessica is also a fan of horror movies, with her favorite film being the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He went on to tell the court Jessica's diagnoses, which included dyslexia, ADHD, mild to moderate intellectual disability, and autism spectrum disorder. Going on to tell the court that she stated she wanted to give her mother a taste of her own medicine. Defense counsel Nathan Steele told the jury to put emotion and sympathy to one side and decide the case based on the evidence. Due to the effects of her mental conditions, she had an impaired capacity at the time of the events. The court also heard evidence from Jessica's sister Christy, who agreed that Jessica had been diagnosed with disorders including dyslexia and attention deficit disorder and had been bullied by other students at school, and telling the court that when their father was no longer living with them, Jessica's behavior worsened because, quote, "Dad had control over her and her discipline, and that was no longer there."
Time of extraordinary viciousness and brutality. She must have been in extreme pain and both shocked and terrified at what was being done to her by her own beloved child. At the time of her mother's killing, the offender was substantially impaired by an abnormality of the mind, leading her to have a diminished capacity to control herself. The possibility of a violent outburst against someone in the community looms large. In interviews with police officers, she repeatedly asked about her own future and what would happen to her. Another incident involved an assault on the witness's former mother-in-law, where the offender approached the lady from behind and pulled her hair violently. She had to be physically pulled away by Mrs. Camilleri, who prevented the assault from going further. In September 2012, she assaulted a lady with a baby by grabbing hold of the woman's hair and pulling it. In December 2012, a woman at a supermarket checkout counter was assaulted when the offender, without provocation, walked up to her and pulled her hair. In June 2013, the offender had an argument with a student in her Nova employment class. When another student sought to calm the situation, the offender lunged at her, grabbed her hair and pulled it. In July 2013, the offender pulled the hair of a woman whilst in the waiting room of doctor's practice. The offender told police that the female had been staring at her and she just saw red. In September 2013, the offender attended Westmead Hospital Emergency Department after suffering a panic attack. In the waiting room, the offender approached a woman who she thought was staring at her and grabbed the woman by the hair. In March 2016, the offender called out to a woman getting off a bus near her St Clair house, asking for help. When the woman approached, the offender grabbed the woman's hair and dragged her to the ground. Further, before Mrs Camilleri's death, the offender became obsessed with telephoning strangers and frequently threatened those strangers, some with decapitation. Of particular relevance is the offender's campaign of harassment against Natalie Naylor, who received over 20 phone calls and 22 messages from the offender in October 2015. Ms Naylor reported that the offender's messages included a number of threats to kill her and her husband, including, "I will come over to your door with a knife in my hand and slit your throat myself. I will come over to your house with a knife in my hand and I will shred off your head to your neck, and I will shred off your head to your neck and you will have no head left. I will fucking ram that knife right through your neck and cut off your whole head." A second victim of this sort of behaviour was Matthew Layfield, who was the unwilling recipient of as many as 100 telephone calls per day in the 12 months before Anzac Day 2019. Having begun to telephone Mr Layfield, the offender managed to match a phone number with his business and began to call numbers associated with it, including Mr Layfield on his work number and a number of his colleagues and family members. Although the offender typically commenced the calls with an apology for their frequency, she quickly became aggressive and said things to those she called, such as, "I will stab you and cut off your head with a knife." Mr Layfield, his business colleagues and his family endured about 12 months of these seriously harassing phone calls, including a call placed to Mr Layfield's wife in which the offender told her that she would cut off her head and flush it down the toilet. These hundreds and hundreds of calls were made despite Mrs Camilleri's constant attempts to stop the offender from placing them. In light of what the offender did to her mother, it is deeply troubling that the threats made to others were often threats of decapitation.
She was sentenced to a maximum 21 years and 7 months behind bars. Her family gave the court a tearful thank you. The judge said Camilleri remains a serious risk because she resists treatment, and that her prospects of rehabilitation are limited because she no longer has a mother's support in a safe and calm home environment.
That I really hope that our justice system prevails. I would not wish this upon any family. It has been extremely traumatic for myself, my son, my family, and I'm just having faith in the justice system.
And you said in there that you felt like she made choices that brought her to this point.
Yeah, absolutely, she did. She had the support from many avenues, and unfortunately I feel that our mental health system let her down, let my mother down, let my whole family down. And
is that because Rita asked for help? Or?
Yes. Yes.
Just tell us about your mum briefly.
My mother was a beautiful person inside and out, a heart of gold, and she would have put anybody in front of her own needs.
And do you think eventually you will have that forgiveness in your heart?
Never. I will never forgive or forget what has happened. I have to live with a little boy that has to live with that trauma for the rest of his life, and I am absolutely no way forgiving her.
Do you think about what will happen to Jessica when she is eventually released?
She has no support from our family, so I don't really care what happens to her. From this point on, or when she is released. And I just hope that it is a lengthy sentence so that way members of the community remain safe.
Okay guys, if you're still here, thank you. I appreciate you so very much. If you would be so kind, leave me a like, leave me a comment, let me know what you think. Subscribe if you haven't yet. It would mean so much to me, especially since I'm so small. And until next time,